My name is Simone Crawley, and I'm the founder and CEO of Crawley Cultural Consulting. Crawley Cultural is helping organizations, companies, individuals address diversity, equity, inclusion, but then also anti-racism, social justice, cultural competence, cultural humility, cultural awareness. What brought me to this work, I feel like I was brought to this work. I didn't sort of think about it and say, that's the direction I want to go into. I really sort of organically allowed myself to find a path that made the most sense for me. You know, I got my teeth cut in politics, which is clearly very dog eat dog and not an industry, not a space for the weak, right? And so I learned so much more bad than good is what I learned in that space. I really learned being honest. I learned manipulation. I learned gaslighting. I learned a lot of negative attributes that people use in the business world and in their professional capacity to keep communities in the dark, keep communities marginalized by acting like they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea the data looks like it does. If they can take this sort of aloof approach to health disparities, for example, then they don't have to do anything about it. I stepped out onto Crawley Cultural full time in the middle of the pandemic, first of all, which is not advised, but had to be done. It was divine timing. But also it was still during the time that this, racial reckoning was happening across the globe. And all of this performative activism was still in full swing. And so a lot of people are like, oh my goodness, that's gonna be great business for you. And it's like, except that's not why I'm doing this, right? This was so many years in the making. This was predestined. This is not a response to anything that is trending right now. Nothing that I've ever done is a response to what's trending and what's popular and what might get you some money right now. It's never been a concern to me. But I also recognize that that's a privilege because a lot of people feel like they have to occupy that space in order to be consistent and be successful and be steady. And I recognize that. But I work really hard to insulate myself so that I'm never in a position where I feel like I have to compromise my integrity, where I have to step outside of who Simone is in order to stay afloat. I work really hard to make sure that that is not a reality for me. And it's not even just I work hard to make sure that's happened. My parents worked really hard for me to be able to sit here and say that I work really hard to make sure I can honor myself, right? They made sacrifices, and my grandparents before them made sacrifices and set things in motion that generationally bring me to a space where I can say that. I'm more interested in seeing like individual changes happening within people than from a larger perspective, because these systems are just, and these organizations are just made up of individual people that walk through the doors every single day. So the changes have to happen internally from that perspective. And I think a lot of people just feel like that is so unrealistic that would happen, that let's talk about the systemic pieces only. But to me, I think it's more unrealistic to change a system if you don't change an individual, if you can't influence or change an individual. If you don't understand perceptions that you have related to gender being rigid, where you just fundamentally refuse to acknowledge or accept the notion that, the reality that, that's not everybody else's reality. If you don't recognize that you operate in a way that is so ethnocentric, right? Here's you and there's the world. Here's how I feel, my beliefs, and there's everyone else's. And you go into every single situation like that. Every conversation you have with a client, every single conversation that you have with your kids, every conversation that you have at the grocery store with a stranger. Everything you do is influenced by those perceptions. And you don't even know what they are. You don't even realize that you feel like this based on your identity. You don't even understand that you might be a woman who has a bias against women. You don't even recognize that, but you know who does recognize it? Other women, right? That's the thing with implicit bias. Even if you don't feel it, even if you don't register it, even if you feel like it's out of sight, out of mind, every time you engage with somebody with that identity, they can feel it. I really hope that I can do something in this space at some point that moves things to a more proactive place. People have jokingly called me the Olivia Pope of diversity and inclusion. And it's like, haha, that's funny. But it's not, because I don't want to get those phone calls. I don't want to get these phone calls from executives, from managers, from the head of HR, right? At all of these facilities, all of these companies within all these systems, that is frantically telling me about something that has happened and how they're so afraid about what the implications of that. And, you know, I don't function well in that kind of a space, right? From a mental health perspective. Professionally, I'm Johnny on the spot. We can very immediately move into action. But emotionally, I'm over here thinking, like, how did this even get to this point? And empathizing with the staff of color, empathizing with the clients that come from backgrounds that are not represented at this organization, that's where my mind and my heart goes to. And it's upsetting. It's like, what is this? Why am I here? Tell me why I'm here. Why'd you call? What's going on? What are you looking to have happen? Oh, we really just want to address our diversity and, you know, make sure our staff feels comfortable and welcome from all backgrounds, and make sure our clients are really enjoying our services. Okay, why wouldn't they enjoy your services? Why would that ever be a question? What's going on that would lead you to believe that that might be a challenge? Well, you know, we did have an incident recently. It's like, here we go. Do. I knew it was something. And then by the end of the conversation, there I have run down like 20 different incidents in the past 90 days. It didn't get that way because of one person, although we like to kind of find a real bad actor and just put it on them. It's more than just one person, right? Even if that person is the top person, there are some other individuals that are affirming or supporting their behavior, that are mimicking their behavior as well. It is so much more than that. And so don't assume that even if I do conduct some training with you, your executive team, with the staff, don't think that that is some green light to say we're doing a great job. We're going to tell our stakeholders and our funders that we've addressed our challenges. You haven't addressed anything. You just had one training. What is that supposed to do? Receiving all this money to provide services to our community that are not equitable. What drives me in that space is stepping into that room to say, everyone is allowed to come in here and they don't have to leave anything at the door. Okay? They don't have to leave some element of their identity, of who they are on a cultural level at the door because it makes you uncomfortable, because you've never been around people like this before. You better get over it. Even if that's the case, beloved, you better figure it out. You better figure it out today, okay? People have admitted feelings to me that they have for communities or certain demographics that just keeps you up at night. Just the lack of humanity. Right? How do you protect yourself from that? How do you protect other people from that? Right? What can I do in this situation to manage this in a way that I can make sure that this individual doesn't come into contact with anyone else that they can harm? People are constantly just so afraid of being labeled. Oh my goodness, someone's gonna call me racist. I'm not racist though. It's like, who are you trying to convince, right? Me or you? I didn't call you anything. Bigotry and stigma are the result of fear. I have a real fear that my identity will be threatened or is threatened by someone else's progress. But the question is, why do you feel like that? Would it make you feel small? Would it make you feel weak or insignificant or unintelligent? Would it make you feel ugly if somebody else was allowed to feel beautiful? If Black women were allowed to feel beautiful or are allowed to step into this power that we have, what does that mean for you? Why do you feel threatened by that? That's the question. Why do you feel threatened by somebody telling you that they have pronouns that are different from the pronouns that you thought that they should be using? Why do you feel threatened personally by that? Why are you so uncomfortable with someone else getting free? What is that about? You were not allowed to show up in the way that you see young people showing up now, being fluid in their presentation, in their identities. You didn't even know that it was an option. And so you feel hurt by that. You feel hurt that you were never given that opportunity. So you feel like if you had to stay in the box, everyone else has to stay in the box too. If you were never given the opportunity to explore your gender identity and really be more authentic to who you are, then you feel like it's not fair that other people get to do that too. And then this whole idea of shoving things down our throats. Every time you see on TV a heterosexual couple, how is that not shoving heterosexuality down your throat? How is that not contributing to this idea that heterosexuality is the norm and allowing heteronormativity to just be rampant across our society? How is that not shoving something down your throat? I mean, it seems really clear to me. Or only this acceptance of Christianity and how dominant it is in the US. How is that not shoving Christianity down our throats? When you bring it into the schools, when you have it within in politics and in the government sector, as soon as you see something that you've never seen before, as soon as something becomes visual to you that is different or that goes against that norm, you receive that and you read that as a threat. That is what we have to change. When I put my efforts into helping support and prop up an identity that I don't carry, it helps me in the advocacy for my own community. It helps me be strong for me. It helps me stand in who I am. Because you learn these lessons in the journeys of other people, in the stories of other people, in the history of other cultures. It can teach you about you. We're not taught to really honor our full, authentic self. And even for me, it's been a long road to really acknowledging all the elements and all the aspects of who I am. Because I think for a long time, for me, I felt that I needed to present in a sort of way that was acceptable, right? Especially being so young and being in these really powerful spaces and being in really influential professional spaces. I felt like I needed to match that space. That I couldn't be too loud from the way I present, right? How am I dressed? What am I looking like? The way I speak, when I speak or don't speak. And slowly over time, it's just like, listen, this is not gonna work for me. This is not gonna work for me. I'm not gonna be the loudest person in the room. I'm not necessarily gonna speak out of turn all the time or be disruptive, but I also don't have a lot of tolerance for the politics, really. Even though that's the space where I learned so much from, and I know that industry and that space so well, part of the reason I stepped out of it is because I just couldn't tolerate that anymore. Like, that's not what I'm here for. I didn't come here to play this game. I did not come here to, scratch your back so you can scratch mine later on down the road. No, right? Absolutely not. I want you to talk to me about your platform. What are you about? What are you here for? What do you care about? What keeps you up at night? That's what I want to know. Or does this stop for you at 5 o'clock? Because I don't know how to turn it off at 5 o'clock. I don't know how to tell people to be culturally competent. And then in my personal life, it's just a free-for-all. Who cares what I say, what anybody says? Nothing that we do matters because we're all relaxing right now. It doesn't work like that for me. This is all the time. This is who I am and how I will be in every space. I would never ask or tell someone to do something that I couldn't do. I would never provide my clients with information that I wouldn't use. I would never tell you to read a book that I hadn't read. I would just, whatever it is that I'm talking about, please understand that that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing this too. Let's study together. Let's read together, right? This is what I'm gonna be working on. We can do that together because I'm in the same boat. No one gets to this point where they are just a master, right? I have reached this mastery level of information. I no longer need any training or information. I'm not gonna do any research. I've reached the level that I'm supposed to reach at this point. It's not realistic. Now, am I perfect? No. Do I mean to say that I'm perfect? No. But I also every single day engage in self-critique. I'm looking at myself in the mirror every morning and every night, and sometimes in between, right? Asking myself, like, okay, you think you handled it the best way? Think maybe you could have done better there? Everything that I do for the furtherance of my people, but specifically Black women, Black cis women, Black trans women, Black queer women, because it's rough. Talking about social status, it just feels like we're here, just at the absolute bottom. Like there's just this sheer indifference towards us, to our lives. And sometimes I feel like the things that I do are maybe subconsciously an attempt to try to justify my life or try to justify why, I'm deserving of respect, deserving of the positions that I've held and will hold in the future, and the work that I do and the spaces that I command. Part of it is probably subconsciously just trying to convince myself still that I belong. And that's the thing when people talk about imposter syndrome, it's like, oh, do I have imposter syndrome or am I just traumatized, right? Do I have imposter syndrome or am I being actively discriminated against? Like, I think those are different things. It's too easy to put it on me to say, oh, you just don't feel strong enough or you don't feel smart enough. Is it that, or did people tell me I wasn't smart enough? Right? Is it that, or was I made to feel this way? Am I just self-conscious being a woman in certain spaces, or have I been openly sexually harassed? Right? You have to really push back on even concepts like that try to make it seem that it's all in your mind. It's like gaslighting. Like I'm just making this up, and yeah, I just need to relax and not get myself into a state. I'm really working against systems or energies and forces that are so much bigger than me. And I'm doing the best I can in that space. Oh my gosh, these Black girls that are coming up now are just the light of the whole world. They are so brilliant. They are so powerful. They are so talented in so many industries. These young women that I've been meeting and these girls that I've been meeting and those in my family. And I'm just so excited. And I pray that I am here long enough to support them in any way that I can. I hope that I do or say something that is inspiring to them because they inspire me. And I hope that they don't feel like they have to shrink themselves at any point in any space. And anything that I can do to guarantee that, that's what I'm gonna do. That's what I'm about. And I don't need the recognition. I don't need an applause. That's enough for me. I wish I didn't shrink myself so much for so long before now. I wish I was confident enough, even, a few years ago, to really step into my full power, my full capacity. But I feel like there's never a point that you get to in life or at any age where it's too late. You can always make a different decision. You can always wake up and bet on black. You can always believe in yourself. You can always start that process now. And what happens as a result of that is so magical. It is so magical, the blessings that rain down. And not even necessarily in a traditional sense, like money and opportunities, but just in the way that you feel, in the light that you carry forth into the world. I've been going through my own personal, growth journey that has really brought me to this space of feeling such greater peace internally. Despite whatever is happening around me at any given moment, there is a stillness that I carry that I longed for so many years. And the gratitude that I feel having finally tapped into that. It's not just thinking about walking like you have 10,000 ancestors behind you. They are with you. They're in front of you. They're in your face trying to get your attention so you can stop cutting the food, right? The ancestors are present. They're here. And, for me on a kind of spiritual level, I think I have a little bit of a different relationship to that. And it goes a little bit deeper, but I feel like it influences and enhances the work that I do. A lot of that messaging I feel like is not really coming from me. I feel like all of my mentors and my family members and my ancestors are speaking through me. I just wake up every day and I choose the light. And sometimes when I tell people that, they sort of assume that I am not paying attention or acknowledging or recognizing the dark or the bad things happening. It's like, clearly I am, right? There is no way to not register the pain and the trauma happening across the globe simultaneously. That has been happening for so long. Not even just in the past year and a half, but just all the time. And as an empath, I definitely register it. When I have conversations with people, their energy is so heavy. And oftentimes people don't even know, or they don't realize that it's so transparent. But I can feel that. But when I say I wake up every day and choose the light, that means that I'm not only acknowledging the dark, but I see the dark, because you can't have the light without the dark. It's the yin and the yang. It's the balance that the world and the universe depends on. But even if I can't change the darkness in the world, I can prevent other people's darkness from becoming my darkness, and I can choose the light for myself. And I can hope that in doing so, it creates light for other people. It creates safe spaces for other people. Because just as hurt people, healed people heal people. So as I grow and evolve and morph into who I am supposed to be, and I feel like that changes. It's not just one definitive, like this is who you are. It evolves and changes and ebbs and flows over time throughout your life. But as I move through my process, I feel that I'm required to share with others. That's the space that I'm trying to occupy always.